This is Daniel, and today I have Caleb. Caleb is the organizing chair Caleb is someone I just recently met, and we just started talking, and is introduced by this dear friend of us, Andrew Chow. I think you have seen Andrew stream in our group here and there once in a while. So Caleb, welcome to the group.
Hey, thanks Daniel. Thanks for having me here, man. It's a great pleasure.
So wanna check in terms of this, one of the reasons we are getting you here is basically there's a contest. This is regarding about startup, and this is regarding about startup expanding to China. Can you explain what are we doing, and also how do you end up being part of this?
Wow, that's a very good question, man. That's a very loaded question. I think in a nutshell, this competition is called the 2020 China-Asean New Smart City Innovation and Entrepreneurship Competition. And the whole aim of this is to find inroads for the best ASEAN startups, smart city startups, inroads into the Chinese market, right? So it's hosted by the Chinese government, the Nanning government, right? And it's also organized by this company called Cloudbae, which is a subsidiary of the Alibaba group, right? And Cloudbae, their role is to actually spearhead Nanning's smart city initiatives. So what they did was they reached out to ASEAN. They found a couple of partners to help develop the ASEAN division of the competition. Yeah, so they actually reached out to Singapore as a home base, and they are working with a stat board under the National Youth Council of Singapore, right, which is one of our ministries in Singapore, and it's called Scape Singapore. And they also partnered together with one local university, our Singapore University of Social Sciences, and they are my co-partners under my company 2B Compass. So together we are here to ensure that we get the best startups across ASEAN, come together, form the ASEAN division, compete, and progress to the grand finals in virtually Nanning, Singapore. Right, so the second question was, how did this come upon me? Well, it came to a blessing lah. I was very new in my journey 2 years ago. Right, I was only just started my journey as a brand coach through social media. Right, and I got the attention of a strategic advisor for Cloudbae. Right, and I think he reached out to me and we had a good chat. And he wanted to give me the opportunity, so I took it. So actually, 2 years ago, at this time of the year, he brought me as a VVIP to the China-ASEAN Expo, right? And this is an annual thing, and it's a huge government event, and we bring ministers across ASEAN to be invited as well. So that gave me a first insight of how the Nanning city is like. The plans that the government has for the city, and how they plan to involve ASEAN as part of the One Belt One Road, right? So I think 2 years later, we worked out more collaboration opportunities, and here I am as the organizing chair for this year's run.
So curious on a few things, so how is this part of One Belt One Road, and in terms of smart cities, what do they have in mind actually? Smart city is such a broad topic in terms of that. Is there any examples?
Yeah, exactly. There's many examples. So I think rather than give you theories, these are some of the things I saw when I went to Nanning 2 years ago. And we know in China time, 2 years is like more than a decade, right, for the rest of the world, right? And I think I recall going to Nanning, and the first thing that I noticed, if we went from the airport to the main city, so we had to go to the countryside, and before we get to the city, I noticed that the roads in the countryside were far superior than our roads in Singapore. Right? And Singapore is known for having very smooth roads already, right, in ASEAN. Yeah. And even in the countryside across China, you would imagine that they'll focus on having the best roads in the city, and then they'll focus on the outer skirts of the city, followed by the countryside. The road quality was already very high, and they have IoT technologies in place to ensure the maintenance of the road of any segments across all the road networks across China. The second really cool thing that I saw was when I went into a 7-Eleven equivalent in China, and this concept store, you could actually go inside, take anything you want, and leave, and the payment will be auto deducted off your bank account. Right? There was no need for even a WeChat payment, right? Not even talk about cash, right? You could just take everything, and you leave, and you auto deduct from your own bank account. And so when we're talking about smart city, it's all about how do we improve the life of citizens in a 4G or even a 5G world, right? So I think when it comes to anything that involves big data and using that to solve smart city problems, those are the kind of solutions we would like to bring into China. You also talk about the One Belt, One Road and how is it linked into Asia? Well, so Nanning is a very strategic location in terms of China's One Belt, One Road initiative. So Nanning, right, is the closest major city, major economic hub to ASEAN. So it's literally by the border of Vietnam. So for the government, right, it makes complete sense to use that as a hub to bring opportunities from ASEAN through into China and then across towards Europe. So that's why there's so much emphasis in developing Nanning as a smart city, right? And using that as a test bed to eventually make other cities in China smart cities as well.
So when you actually experienced, like, was that your first time in China actually? Like,
oh yes, it was. And
so
I suffered from the Singaporean elitism, right? Like, oh, we're so advanced, it's China. But that was my impression of China in the 80s and 90s, right? And you just go there, you're so humble, you just realize, okay, crap. In Singapore, we are fairly advanced compared to the world, but man, we feel so backward compared to the developments and the strides that China is making. Yeah, and even in this city of Nanning that was unknown just 10, 15 years ago, right? So it was incredibly humbling an experience.
So one of the things in terms of China, in terms of the cities like China, they have different tier. So is Nanning is a tier 2 city, if I understand correct?
So I like to be very cautious because I'm not working with the government, so I don't want to represent things inaccurately. But it is definitely not a tier 3. I don't think they are calling it a tier 2 just yet. I will need to confirm this, right? But it's called a special economic zone. It's been called a special economic zone. So I'm not sure whether it's considered a tier 2, but it's definitely a huge priority for China's economic growth.
And so what are the problems they are trying to solve when you're looking at smart cities? And so this, you mentioned using IoT to actually measure the road, to figure out if there's something they need to fix. Like, is there any big problem statement for startups who want to join this contest that they should look out for?
That's a very good question. That's a really good question. So last year when Cloudbae came to Singapore during the ASEAN Division, after the competition and the very next day, they brought together the grand finalists, right, who qualified for the finals in Nanning, and we came into our government building, Scape Singapore, and he showed us this war room data, and it's a live war room data, and on this war room data, they had a lot of numbers flying all around, very futuristic kind of thing. And there were data such that at any one stop of the MRT rail system, right, you could check out the number of inflow and outflow of people going in and out of the MRT doors. Above that image was a live number that was always increasing non-stop. That was the amount of transaction of the MRT, right? And another thing I saw was that they were able to track using IoTs. And IoT is just a very generic term, right? There's many subcategories that even I am not the expert on, but they could even track things like the PMI data, or even, I can't recall the data, but a certain dust levels across the entire city. And there's a reason why they want to track these dust data. So when it comes to the construction for residential buildings, right, there are two types of sand that are available. One is a riverbank sand, the other is sea sand. Right? For residential, we need to use riverbank sand. However, because the supply is obviously lower, there's always a history of companies globally trying to skive and use a cheaper sea alternative. Right? And when you do something illegal, right, a natural behavior is that when the sand comes on site, you want to dump it and get rid of evidence as fast as possible. And this is something that's probably happening across the world. So just this sudden outpouring of sand causes a sudden dust, a sudden spike in the dust levels around the region, right? So even it is these observations of data that allow us to make meaningful observations, right? And see how do we solve big city problems, right? So I guess when it comes to people who are interested in this competition, I would highly recommend to understand the Chinese market. How can my idea, that's probably at MVP level or maybe even just at ideation stage, how can we understand what are the problems that China is facing, right? And how can we angle our idea to solve some of the issues that Nanning is facing, right? And this is something that we highly recommend all interested teams to do, because the potential, if it catches the eyes of the government or even Cloudbae, they have high interest to allow these startups inroads into China and to expand their idea, not just within China, but even globally as well.
So basically you mentioned that it's like MVP stage and so on. Like what level of startups should actually join this contest? Like MVP is still very early. Like are they supposed to be an established company, or are they supposed to be just an idea?
Yep. So thanks, Daniel, for asking. So we are open to all stages. So the idea of this is not to have the winning product, but rather it's more like having how to display the potential of your product to be relevant and applicable to China's Smart City initiative. So for example, we have one category, it's called the comprehensive category. And this is where we have startups probably who have a registration number, and it's probably as a private limited already, and they have an MVP ready to launch, and they have a 5-year business plan. So these are what I call the more advanced stage startups. They are more than open to apply for the comprehensive category. Another category for the competition is what I call the startup category. And this is open to anybody 18 and above. You can be a student, you can be someone who is my age in his 30s, someone in his 50s, and you get an idea, right? And this idea has potential, no MVP. We also welcome you to take part in this competition and sell this idea, because if the idea has potential, the Nanning government has this state-of-the-art innovation center. It's called the Smart City Innovation Center.
Okay.
Right. Brilliant name, right?
It's practical.
Yeah. And there's a lot of incentives to allow you to use the facilities, and hopefully when COVID is over, to develop this idea into a real life solution, right? So the support is quite high if the idea has strong potential in progressing China's smart city initiatives.
What are the mechanics actually? Like if I want to join, like in both areas that you're talking about, what should be the first thing that I do besides
so you're talking about in terms of how do you register how do you get involved in the competition?
Yeah. How do I get involved in the competition, and like what's the mechanic? Like so is it just pitching, or do I have to show a prototype?
Okay, fantastic. So we highly recommend to be as creative, in how we deliver the pitch, right? So we can all start by firstly registering for the event, right? So there's going to be a registration link that we will insert, I believe, in the post copy or in the comment section below, right? That's where you can find out all the deep details of the competition and register an application. Because of COVID, unfortunately, we can't send our ASEAN participants into Singapore to compete and send the grand finalists into Nanning, China, as we did last year, right? So this year we purely virtual, right? And how it will be done is that the pitch will be done via a recorded video, followed by a live Q&A between the judges and the participating team, right? So last year we had some participants who were very creative in the use of video to show how their MVP works. One of them was by this person called Andre Stoltz, and the company name escapes me right now. But he had this unique sponge that's able to extract oil out of any liquid, right? It ignores water, only absorbs oil, right? And he just did a video showing us the entire process in the lab, and that gave the judges a very clear idea of how this product works, and also in their minds, like, maybe I could see in reality how it could work for smart cities in China or even globally as well. So we highly encourage a high amount of creativity so that people have a better conceptual idea to see its application in action.
Yeah. So what are the other examples, basically, if like previous winners and previous participants that have joined?
Right. So past last year there was, so the person who I mentioned about, Andre, he won the comprehensive category last year in the grand finals. So he was saying how it was quite an experience being on stage. There was like almost 10-meter high screens behind him in the studio and bright lights shining, right? The other lady who won the startup category, she's actually only in university, and she's from Thailand, right? And she focuses on helping Alzheimer's patients to allow them to integrate seamlessly into society. I think there's a lot of Alzheimer's is a growing first world problem as part of the aging population problem, right? And she came up with this device that allows them to be trackable by their loved ones, allows people who find them to know what to do with them due to a device that she has created. Her company name is called Asma, and she's still in university right now, right? And she had a winning project, right? So I believe that post-competition, the strategic advisor of Cloudbae, this is best to link her up with suitable partners in Thailand to see how they can develop the idea further, right? And the project seems to be progressing well currently.
So, any of the products that have been already commercialized over in Nanning?
Well, so the products were not, I don't think any product will commercialize in Nanning yet. I think a lot of it has to do with, firstly, does the participant really want to break into China, and secondly, does that product does it attract enough investors? So it's always going to be a two-way process for anything to be possible. But what I heard was that for last year's winner, Andre Stoltz, he just got his first contract done quite recently. Yeah, quite recently.
So there's actually a lot of potential for commercialization, and just to give perspective, like Singapore is a 5 million population country. Malaysia, we are hitting about 30 million. Nanning itself, 2017, I believe, is about 7 million alone, and I think it's a lot more now, right?
It's way higher now. Yeah, it's way high. There's a lot of incentive for. So when I went there 2 years ago, that was in 2018, right? They were literally in the midst of building a brand new city over a bare patch of land, right? And I got to see where the government HQ was. I got to see Cloudbae's new office, which is within the government HQ, right? And it was at the last stage of TOP already. I believe they were building over 1 million residential households within the vicinity of the city, and that was across the bridge of the old city, right? So when a government does something like that, it tells you a lot about the intention, which is to fill up this city with the best Chinese talents, and hopefully to bring in the best ASEAN talents. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Because ASEAN contains a lot of ethnic Chinese, right? So they also understand that integrating into South China, where our accent is the same, we look literally the same as them, right? The integration is a lot easier as well. Yeah, so I think by doing so, it tells you a lot about what they have planned for the city, and that is definitely grow and allow it to be that economic hub for the One Belt One Road.
So you mentioned about like ASEAN had a lot of South Chinese descendants, but like Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, there's actually a quite big mix of race, and this contest will be conducted in English, right?
Yes, it will be purely in English. Yeah.
So if a startup, a founder who have no grasp of Chinese like this, will you advise them to?
Yes.
How do you get involved in this contest?
Easily, just join it as part of any other startup competition, because your grasp of English is all that is needed to participate. For the Singapore, for the ASEAN division held on the 19th and 20th of October, definitely no issue. As we progress into the China side, right? So my team will be ensuring that all your recorded pitch videos will be translated into Mandarin as well. That's the first layer of connection we want to make between China and ASEAN. The second level is that there will also be Chinese live translators on the spot. So last year it was done in an actual studio. So they had live translators doing quick translation work. I'm not sure how great their robotic translation is. They have this technology that I saw in Hangzhou last year during the Alibaba annual convention, and it had highly accurate live.
The Aspara.
Yeah, the Aspara. Yeah. So
I was in the train when Aspara happened.
Oh, right.
I was in Hangzhou then.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, huge event. In fact, the next one is happening just about any time right now as well.
Yeah, it's soon. Actually, I can't remember when. It's soon. I know my friends are speaking.
Correct. Yeah. So the organizers in Cloudbae is very, the Chinese, they are born to be really great hosts, right? So as part of their hosting giftings, right, it is also ensured that there is a strong communication in English and Chinese. So last year, some of our participants were from Thai, were Germans, were French, were Singaporeans, were Indonesians, and they all felt 100% at home, even in China itself.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Like a lot of people actually think, like in terms of like when they actually, you need to understand Mandarin or speak Chinese to go to the so, which I think is definitely a plus. You definitely need to do that. But the thing they don't understand about China is different part of China speaks it differently. So it also doesn't matter. But at the same time, you are right. There are super hosts on there. You will feel at home. So it's a great place to be, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. It's a wonderful city. Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about the organization involved in it. You mentioned we can start with yours. You also mentioned Cloudbae a few times, and just share a bit on the history of who are involved in this.
Fantastic. So I'll go in order of capacity. So firstly, we have the Nanning government, right? Mm-hmm. So this whole competition is part of the runway towards the China-Asean Expo, the one that I was invited to two years back, right? Mm-hmm. And it involves all the ministers of the ASEAN communities, ASEAN countries to be part of. So they are hosting the entire event. So our key organizers, the main organizers, is Cloudbae. So they are part of the whole New Smart City initiative. So
how do you spell Cloudbae? Just in case the audience do not know.
Oh, so it's Cloud and Bae, B-A-E, the Korean baby, right?
Yeah.
It's called, the Chinese name is called Yun Bao Bao. Yun Bao Bao. Yeah. So it's considered a big data company. Yeah. So they are kind of like working very closely with the government for all their initiatives. So they are driving the entire framework of the competition. So on my side, I'm focusing on driving the ASEAN division, right, as a private limited, right. So my job is just an event organizer, very, very simple one, right. But we are also co-supported by a Singapore statutory board, SCAPE Singapore, and it's linked to the Ministry of to the National Youth Council. Yeah. So it's a government body lah. Yeah. So great support from that side. And also with Singapore University of Social Sciences. So they are a university that has a really good startup and incubator program as well, right? So SCAPE also has a very, very strong incubator and startup program. So we felt that having these two organizations involved will help to progress this competition a lot more efficiently than just relying on myself. And they've been a gem to work with lah. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I worked with SCAPE before, but yeah, amazing group. So,
yeah.
What are the prize money actually involved?
Okay, so there's a total of 320 renminbi, 320,000 renminbi to be won. So how it will be divided is that there'll be the winners, first, second, and third prize for the top three winners, followed by 3 consolation prize for the next three grand finalists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in terms of would there be any condition like to win the prize, or there's no condition at all? It's just cash prize?
As in, could you repeat that?
Oh no, so those are just like hardcore cash prize essentially.
Right.
On top of the support and the introduction and the network they actually provide.
Right. So for one, there'll be the cash prize. The second thing that I noticed in last year's organizers from Cloudbae was that they did a lot of follow-up post-event, right? And these things are not what we put down in black and white in the competition, but it's based on their desire to help the ASEAN startups who have met a certain level of quality to see through their projects, whether or not it's within China or outside of China. So that's something that I saw in Cloudbae's key strategic leader, right? And thirdly, if there's any opportunities to break into China, then there's always going to be an option. There's going to be this option available should both parties be interested.
Awesome. So where can people sign up? Actually, I think I have the bit.ly link below, but yeah, if you can head over, it's a very long name.
It is. That's the thing about the Chinese, that when it's in Mandarin, it sounds really good, right? But they have kept this branding, and we want to honor the branding that the Chinese have made. And to be honest, I think it speaks very well of the direction of this competition. We want things to be not just new smart city based, but a new smart city base. We're thinking at 5G level already, and obviously we have to be innovative and entrepreneurial in our aspects. So the website where you can register will be bit.ly/China-Asean Comp, right? Which is China-Asean COMP, right? And that will lead you to our website. So I believe we will probably leave right exactly here. Click on it, and you have a greater overview, of what to expect, what's going to be in store for you, the time, the deadlines that's going to be involved, right, as well as the potential wins that you and your team could potentially win, right? So highly encourage you to jump on this link. Also, go to our Facebook page. Do we have our Facebook page over here?
Yep. Yeah.
It's facebook.com/China-ASEAN Comp, exactly. And this is where we'll have all our latest updates. This will be probably more active than our website. So highly encourage you to like the page, click on the follow button and select see first. So any updates you have, you'll be the first to receive it.
So before we let you off, any tips that entrepreneurs who are participating should actually take note and they should start planning for?
Definitely. To do well in this competition, and I don't speak on myself, I speak based on having connected with 5 of past year's finalists. Take this event seriously. Think really long term, and look at how can we understand the Chinese Smart City Initiative and how can I be part of that journey. So long as we understand these 3 factors, you probably have a very high chance to do well. My team and I, we're going to ensure that you guys receive, all participants receive the best support. For those of you who qualify to be grand finalists, which is the top 16 teams advancing to the grand finals in Nanning, we will ensure that you have support from the best trainers in Singapore. We have them on standby ready to train all of you to be pitch ready, to be mentally ready, and to impress from the get-go. We're also going to ensure that you have a personal mentor to journey with you from qualifying to the grand finals to actually being live at the grand finals itself. So that's our commitment to ensure our ASEAN teams are well represented, and we give ASEAN a great name because we are a great region. Don't you agree?
Yeah. So just a bit that I missed out actually is you guys already have launched. You guys have launched the registration. So registration is already open. The timeline will be what will be the timeline actually in terms of the submission by 10th of October?
Right. So our registration deadline is 10th of October, and that's the deadline where we have to receive your recorded pictures as well as the following information like PowerPoint slides and a 2-page executive summary.
Then you will make an announcement on the 15th of October.
Correct. So on the preliminaries will commence on the 19th of October, as well as the 20th of October. The 19th will be a startup category, and the 20th will be the comprehensive category. The preliminaries will be streamed live on our Facebook page. So if you are participating in this event, feel free to share it, ensure your network, your community supports you, right, and be there for you. And it's also a good way to expose your idea to a greater audience as well.
Yeah, we should be restreaming this a bit actually. Yeah, if you guys are keen. So basically, the online training will happen on the 21st of after everything will happen on the 21st of October. Final submission of 28th of October, and then the grand final on 5th of November. So what will happen in the 5th of November?
So what will happen on the 5th of November? So from what I understand, and this is organized by Cloudbae, so they will advise more. However, in a nutshell, it should be fairly similar to how we are running our preliminaries and how we ran our launch. If you were to refer to our Facebook page to last Wednesday on the 16th of September, we all will be getting ready to, we'll all be lining up each contestant one by one. And once the camera is on them and the slot is up, they will commence their pitch through recording, followed by a live Q&A. So I believe China's side have liaised with their mobile, with their telcos, right, to ensure there's smooth streaming across China and across ASEAN.
And looking at your judging criteria, you'll be judged based on your innovation and creativity, public service in terms of how this can actually help to actually enhance the smart city, commercial value, of course. How do you plan to market it? What's your ROI? Also your pitch performance, basically. So how long will be the pitch? How long will the pitch be that people should?
So for the preliminaries, we'll set it at 6 to 8 minutes, right? We wouldn't go any further than 8 minutes, right? And for the grand finals, we are going to give you a little bit more time, which is 10 to 12 minutes.
Yes, a lot of time. And again, this there'll be over 320,000 RMB of prizes worth there, and it's broken down to this. So if you have any questions on signing up, feel free to head over to the Facebook page listed below. And I think Caleb and his team will be great to answer any questions taking on from there.
Sounds good. And do add me on Facebook. I'm fairly active there. So you just look for Caleb Low, L-O-W. Look for the guy with no eyes and a big smile and a curry pop hair. Add me as a friend. We can connect and discuss further there as well.
Thanks, Caleb, for actually coming on and helping to share with our community this wonderful opportunity. Yes, although COVID has stopped a lot of traveling, but digitalization of all this has actually make the opportunity closer. So you can compete in Malaysia or wherever you are in a competition in China and try to change the world from there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. It's been a wonderful time.
So for the rest of you guys, we will be doing a semi-live streaming on some of our talks soon, and stay tuned. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.